Good evening, my name is Gabriel Mirabrauer and I will be performing a nice brew edition of Mirabrauer. For the materials that I'll be using today, I'll be using a Mr. Beer for a Mr. Beer container. I'll be using the carbonation drops. We have my yeast, Mr. Beer's 55 gram brewer's yeast. We have our non-rinse cleanser. Our craft edition, Mr. Beer Golden Ale. We got over 2 gallons of water. And we have our bottles, and we have our caps. One of the most important parts of brewing beer is always sanitation, because any type of bacteria that can actually get into your beer, it can either mix up the flavor, make it dry, make it taint, or an overall reason it will not taste very good. So what we're going to do, I'm going to have 1 gallon of water. Put this into your keg like this. And you want to pour this in all the way up to the 1 gallon mark, where it says here on my kit. There we go. And if you spill any, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. Now we have our 1 gallon in here. So our next step, as I was saying, once we have the gallon up to 1 gallon. We're going to take our non-rinse cleanser and we are going to mix this in to disinfect. There we go. Don't want to use the whole packet because you want to save some for later, for after. Okay, I believe that is good. It's around half the packet. And next thing you want to do is you want to get at least a silicone spoon. Just want to mix it all in there until it's fully dissolved, like so. So now once the solution is already dissolved, what you want to do next is, you see the spigot here, you are going to let the water run out of the spigot for around a good 5 seconds, so the spigot will be fully sanitized as well. You want to do this over a bowl, because if you do this anywhere else, it will be very messy and it's not fun at all to clean up. So we're going to pull the spigot down, down, down. And if you have any laying bowls around, that's fine. And what you want to do is, you want to take the lid off of the keg. What you want to do is pour the rest of the solution into a bowl with all the other materials that I'll be using. Which you see, I have this wooden spoon, not a wooden spoon, a silicone spoon, I have scissors, and we have a can opener for later. And once it's fully soaked in, you want to leave it around in there for 2 minutes for it to fully sanitize, because you would not want to mess up your brewing process. Okay, now that your area is clean, we move on to another step, which is now we get into the brewing. There are 4 ingredients needed to produce beer. They are malted barley, hops, water, and yeast. Mixing malted barley, hops, and water produces what is called wort. This could be messy, time-consuming, and difficult to control. This ensures that you can consistently produce great tasting beer in a short amount of time. Now, after the sanitation, what I did was put in 4 cups of water out of this measuring cup into the potted pan here, and once the water is going to boil, I'm going to remove it from the heat. Okay, once the water reaches a boil, you want to take it off the stove and put it to the side. After that, you're going to take your hop malt extract here, and before any of this happened, I ended up putting in the malt extract in very warm water, so it could be very easily to move around the extract in the pot. So, after it's been heated up in the water, I took open a can opener, I took the top off, and now what you want to do is you're going to take the malt extract and you're going to place it in the pot, like so. Might get a little bit messy, but it's no worries here. Get it all the way in, like so. Okay, now, once it is fully all the way in the water, get everything out, go. Okay, once it's fully in, you're going to take your spoon and you're going to mix it thoroughly, which is now going to create the process of creating wort. As you can see, I'm very thoroughly stirring up the wort. That was my wooden spoon. This process takes about 30 minutes, so after that, we will move on to the next step. You want to make sure you want to get everything nice in there so the wort doesn't get scorched at the bottom of the pan.
So when you first add the two components together.
Okay, now that the thing has been thoroughly mixed, as you can see here, our next step is go back to our keg and add in a 1 gallon up to the 1 gallon mark. Sorry, right there, with cold water. Okay. Okay, now. Okay, we are almost at the 1. Right around there. Okay, now that we added a 1 gallon of water into the keg, now our next step is to add in the wort into the keg. Here we go. Go. Okay, now that the wort is in there, we're going to add in 1 extra gallon of water. And when we do that, we are going to level it out to the 2 gallon mark marked right here. Now that we added our 2 gallons of water extra to the extract, now you're going to get your spoon, and now you're going to mix it thoroughly. Like so. And be careful not to crack your keg. So you want to take it nice and slow, nice and even, like so. Now after everything has been mixed thoroughly, as you can see right in here, our next step, this is very important, we're going to take our pack yeast, we're going to open it up, and we're going to put it into the batch. Once you cut it open, you're going to drop the whole packet in like this. And once you do that, do not mix, not do anything. You're going to let it sit. There, that's the whole pack. And now, once the packet is in, no more stirring. You're going to take the lid, put it on top, screw it on tight. And now this is the part of the process called fermentation, is what's going to be happening now. Unfortunately, this won't happen in the next couple of days, so we're going to have to wait around at least 10 to 14 days for everything to be fermented until we move on to our next and final step, which is bottling. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
2 weeks later.
Hello everyone, after a good full 2 weeks, you definitely want to check out how your beer came out. Usually after 10 days, definitely taste a small sample to determine if the beer is fully fermented and ready to bottle up. If it is, then great, we're on to the next step, which is now bottling. As you can see here in the video, you have a whole bunch of bottles that still need to be cleaned out. So what you want to do is get the rest of your half pack of no rinse cleaner and put at least a little and distribute it all around the bottles and definitely shake them up. And after that, they should be ready to clean and ready to be moved into the bottling process. Once you allow the cleaning solution to sit in 2 minutes in each of the bottles, what you want to do is go now to your carbonation drops, as you can see here in the video, and to each bottle you want to add a good 2 carbonation drops each to each bottle, and presented below. That'll give the beer a good chance to get a good carbonation, and the taste will be even better. After the carbonation drops have been added to each bottle, what you want to do is get your keg, and definitely do this next part over the sink because this part could get a little messy. So once you have the keg over your sink, you're going to take one of the bottles and you're going to fill it with the spigot. What you want to do is definitely tilt your bottle at an angle so none of the suds keep going up and fills the bottle up faster. Once you get to a decent amount in front of the bottle, you definitely want to leave at least 1 inch margin from the top, so it'll give enough room for the carbonation to rise to the top. And once you see in this video that I finished this up, you want to do the same thing for every single bottle. After you have filled all of your bottles, What you want to do is store the bottles upright in a cool, dark place at a consistent temperature between 70 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit for around 14 days, which is equivalent to another 2 weeks. Now, after the 2 weeks have passed for the carbonation, the beer is now ready and should be refrigerated for another 48 hours until you can actually taste and enjoy your beer. Unfortunately for this process, my beer at the moment is not completely done. It's in the middle of the carbonation process, but I can guarantee when the time it's over, my beer is going to be great. And yours will too, if you follow these exact instructions. Thank you so much for your time, and happy brewing.